How do everybody? Welcome to the first video episode of GlasGo podcast. Thank you to all that have been with me so far on the audio journey, but we're giving this a bash. First episode will be with John Viola. John, for those of you that don't know him, has been a football agent in Scotland for the last 25 years, represents players from all over the UK and the world, and we'll be talking to him today about his career to date and also the John Viola Academy that he's set up where you can study for a degree in this industry. So let me know your thoughts, give it a wee like and subscribe, and I'll catch up with you all soon. So John Viola, the man who's going to make GlasGo podcast the best podcast in Scotland over the next year, hopefully. Thank you very much for agreeing to come on for the first video.
No problem, Gary, it's my pleasure.
Brilliant. And obviously I'd imagine most people in Scotland from a sporting sense will know who you are, but also a business sense. Last 20-25 years, you've been a football agent, a very successful football agent. I think the first thing that I was wanting to know was, from your point of view, obviously you've done that for a long time, but how did you get into that industry in the first place? What was the path that put you into that sort of thing?
That's quite interesting. I was actually working in financial services, Gary, and during that period, I was looking after footballers and footballers' finances. And believe it or not, one of my friends started talking about being a football agent. It wasn't something that was big at that time. And he started off on that pathway, and I had a wee look at it myself, and I thought, I think I could do that. And it was a change of career from being in financial services to becoming a football agent.
And did you have any idea at that point if it was going to be something that you were going to do for 20-25 years, or did you see it as the next step on from working in that financial sector to, I'll try this and see how it goes?
It was sort of an unknown at the time, but I was excited, and I thought, this is something I think I could do, and it was something I thought would be possibly for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I got a feel for it quite early because it wasn't completely new, because I dealt with footballers and I knew a wee bit of background about what they were all about. And I got the opportunity, I jumped at it.
And see, from you dealing with footballers with their finances and that sort of thing, how difficult was it for you to then step into that agent role? How did you establish yourself at that point, coming into a totally new, and as you said, it wasn't as well known then as it is now, but for you, how did you start building your contacts and getting players, etc. at that point?
Well, I already had a wee team of guys that I knew, and I knew well, and they trusted me. So I had quite a good start and been able to get into the industry. I knew a wee bit about what was happening in the background in the business, but I have to say I didn't really know what it was all about. At first I thought, I'll become an agent, this looks good, and let's try this new industry. But that was now nearly 27 years ago, and I have to say it's been a bit of a roller coaster to say the least.
Do you think, and you touched on it a wee bit there, do you think that the way that the kind of sporting world or the business world perceives a football agent has changed over that time? Because you'll see, obviously I'm a football fan, and you'll read things about agents like Viola, etc., and they'll get absolute dog's abuse, they'll be called mercenaries, everything under the sun, whereas you'll see other agents that nobody says anything about. It seems to go from one extreme to the other, but you've probably noticed it more from your side, being in there from that period then to now, and probably massive differences you would have noticed in the perception of people.
Well, I have to tell you, perception's been nearly the same throughout. It's been quite constant. I don't think many people like us.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it is just people see those figures and go, they must all just be getting that money? And
I'd put it down to just basically don't understand what the job's all about. Remember, the public are only seeing, Gary, the last minute, when you're coming in a helicopter and doing a deal, and Jim White and the last minute nonsense. They don't actually see what physically happens throughout the period for the full year before it. So for me, I don't think they know. If they knew a bit more and understood a bit more, I think the perception of football agents would change dramatically.
And see, from that though, obviously people will just look at the transfer, but from your point of view, what other things would you do with a player? Obviously taking away the transfer side of things, just day to day, month to month. What is that relationship like? What kind of stuff are you doing for your customers?
Well, somebody once said to us, how could you actually say put in a couple of words about what your job really is. And I heard a guy, another agent, saying we're just glorified babysitters, and I quite liked that myself. No, look, for us, we try and help the players to take their mind off anything that's out with the pitch. All we want them to do is be fit, eat correctly, do their business on the pitch, and we'll do everything off the pitch. And for that could be anything from help them arrange house, help them arrange their mortgages. The financial services part's a big thing. Help them settle in when they move to a new country. Help them with their holidays. Help them with introductions to people who maybe buy a car. Basically, it's the whole off-field experience that we take away from. We only want them to concentrate what they're good at. Which is kicking the ball around the park.
And take everything else away.
Take the rest away. Take the pressures off them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I suppose a question that I'd get asked a lot when I said you were coming on, a lot of people had said to me, from an agent's point of view, is it as it looks in a sense of there's just so much money to be made, or does that not really tell the tale of every deal isn't like that? Every deal isn't like a Paul Pogba or somebody that's going to get 25, 30 million as a signing on fee, but you'll know obviously from your side, I'd imagine there's a lot more that are nowhere near that sort of level for you trying to earn a living.
Let me tell you, everybody only sees that big headline, and they only want to see the Pogba deal, and they only want to see the Mina Raiola and the 30 million, and I can understand that. But there's guys who are really, young agents who are really putting their time and effort out in there, and they might not even earn any money in a year or two. They're building it up, they're putting so much time into it. There's agents that are only earning 20 and 30,000 a year. There's some that go into it for 3 years and don't make a penny and finish. So that's the side that the public don't see. It's not all glitz and glamour, I have to tell you.
And do you think that's, obviously there's a lot of people out there who want to be football agents, and a lot of them will be for the right reasons, but is there an element of people who think it is just, I'll come in and make X amount of money and retire in 5 years? It's that simple. But do you see that from your side? Do you get a lot of people?
I've been doing it for 27 years. I'm still not retired. No, for sure. There's a perception of people saying, do you know what? I'm just going to, I think I'll leave my job, become a football agent, and lying on the beach in Barbados in 5 years from now. And let me tell you, that just doesn't happen that way.
Aye, because the thing that I always wonder is, obviously there's these massive deals, but there's so many agents out there, and there's not a lot of the players out there that command those kind of monster transfers. So there must be an element of making sure you've got a kind of stable of footballers that you can kind of consistently manage. But from your point of view, how hard is it competing with other agents out there? Is it a case of you're constantly having to be out there kind of pitching yourself to get players in, or do players come to you based on your reputation? How does that work?
It's an interesting question. For me, you're only as good as your last deal. If you don't do the job correctly for the players, then they'll move to other agents. So you have to be on the ball on a regular basis. It's not the type of job you can sit back and relax, that's for sure. But probably the hardest thing is trying to establish yourself. And the hardest thing, Gary, is trying to get those first few players. But if you do the job correctly for them, they'll recommend you to the guys in their dressing room. That's the biggest and easiest way to get new business or new clients is recommendations. And if you do the job transparently and honestly and as best you can, when he's sitting next to his mate in the dressing room saying, I'm thinking about an agent, then your name should come up.
Yeah, and you're getting that word of mouth. And I suppose from that point of view, you've dealt with a lot of big players in Scotland and outside Scotland over the years, but from your point of view, has player behaviour changed in the last kind of 15, 20 years, or is it still those kind of staple things that remain for a player? Basic
desire.
Yeah.
If people say, how would that player make it? That player didn't make it. He was much better than him. And for me, it's about the desire. When I meet a new player, and a lot of times I can say, I think he's got a better chance than others because it's inbred in them. They just want to be a footballer, and you can see it quite a lot more than others. Yeah. And see, when you're potentially taking somebody on, I'd imagine there's been occasions where we're talking about players kind of not having a desire, but there might be somebody that's not right for you as a client. But from your point of view, what criteria do you have before you would take somebody on? What do you look for in that player
before you would bring them in to be part of your stable?
Depends on what level he's at.
Yeah.
Like for instance, I've got some young kids that we're involved with who, again, at age 15, 16, 17, and we're looking for how they adapt themselves, how they work out, how they play in the pitch, what their desire is, what kind of background they've got. There's a lot of assumptions there that you have to be taking. Then, of course, if we're getting introduced to an international player, not many agents would knock back an international player, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Have you though?
I've had one or two that I didn't really like, but that's in any business.
Yeah.
In any business in life, there's some people that you work with that you like, some you don't.
Yeah. I suppose, and it's one of those things where you're not going to get on with every single player.
No.
Or every single, you could work in an office with 200 people, you're not going to like
no way
all of them.
No chance.
No, I understand that. Probably a key thing, and it's something that I ask everybody that comes on, from your point of view, what is your kind of main high points been, and any kind of low points, and probably any learning you've took from both, looking at the kind of top end of the scale and the bottom end of the scale?
And high points, are probably when you see a player, this is probably the best part. I like when a player that you've taken from maybe age 15 or 16, and then you see him making it to the first team, and then maybe becoming captain, and then maybe playing for his country or scoring a hat-trick for a first team. Those are the real, that's a regular high point, and you're saying to yourself, wow, that was great, because you didn't score the goals or whatever, but you maybe were a part of that journey. And that's a really, really, good thing about the job that I love, It's been able to go that journey with these players, and the high points are when they're there at their highest, maybe, and you're there beside them. Yeah. And we've had many that we've taken from age 15, 16, right through to that are now still involved with us, they're still doing business with us at different levels. Because a lot of them become coaches or come into the industry. So we've been in it that long that our coaches' sons are now becoming players.
Generations.
We're going through our coaches' sons are, oh, my son's playing, can you take him on,
But then that's good as well for you, because it keeps that custom going through generations, and there's probably no a bigger trust element than you having somebody their full career, and then their son or their daughter or whatever, they would then recommend them to come to you as well.
Definitely. That's something we're proud of,
Yeah, massive.
Yeah, but a family business, and then it being a family business, people relate to us more. We're sort of a bespoke business, but with a world reach, because we've got clients all around the world. So people, I think, buy into that, a genuine situation of being a family business.
Definitely, 100%. And the part that nobody likes, the kind of low points, or is there any kind of setbacks that you had that made you kind of not doubt what you were doing, but made you kind of think, is this the right industry I'm in, or is this for me, basically? But it could be anything.
Nah, I've had many a situation where you're thinking to yourself, what happened there, This is the type of industry where you get more knockbacks than you get results, let me tell you. It's a numbers game. And you might have a player who you take to 20 clubs and nothing's happening, and then the 21st club take the player. There's many occasions where you're working with a player all around the world, and you spent all that time, effort, and money, and he doesn't get to the heights that you thought he would. So there's a lot of rejection in the business, and that's why so many people don't make it. But low points, I've had lots of low points in the industry. But for me, I was just dust it down and move on and think, right, where's the next bit of business coming from, or where's the next new player or the next new club I'm going to deal with? Because if you thought about the amount of knockbacks you get, or the amount of players that don't come with you, or clubs that don't want to deal with you, or deals that fall through, then you couldn't do this business. Yeah.
And did you find that is easy to deal with at the start as well? If you maybe had kind of rejections and things like that for players?
No, I didn't actually. At the beginning, when I was getting rejection, it was I had to educate myself that, okay, that didn't work. So, as I said, dust yourself down, move on. It wasn't easy. But it's a big thing that when we're teaching people is to say, right, okay, as long as you're doing the job correctly, and you're putting in the time and the effort, and you've got the right education, and you've got the desire, then you should come through at the other end.
And that kind of leads us into part of what you're doing just now as well. So you've got the John Viola Academy.
Yeah.
So for anyone, and actually I've had people, as soon as I said you were coming on, I had loads of people like asking about his course. want to find out a wee bit more about it. So from yourself directly, for anybody who's maybe thinking about it or is maybe looking into that industry as a potential career, what would you say the course would do for them? What kind of base would it provide?
That's an interesting question, because I get asked it regularly, because it's something that we started, and I say there's myself and my partner Phil, who happens to be my nephew, and my son works with us, and my cousins. I say we're a family business, all agents. And what happened was, about nearly 5 years ago, the FIFA regulation rules changed about becoming a football agent. And when I started, way back nearly 27 years ago, you had to give FIFA £100,000 bond.
Just to become
an agent. And look, £100,000 27 years ago, I'm still trying to work out where I got it from. I know that I borrowed money from my family. I sold a flat, I sold a car, I borrowed money for a couple of friends, because I thought, wait a minute, this can work. But they gave you it back after 5 years, as long as you didn't do anything wrong. So they've changed all these rules. There was tests, changed them all. You had to get a test with your local football association. So they scrapped all the rules. And basically says, right, it's for free for all. Who wants to become an agent? So the whole world wants to become an agent, but they've not got the knowledge, and they just don't understand what the job's all about. And so many people are saying, well, I want to be an agent. Tell me about it. How do you do it? I said, why don't we write a wee course? And we actually wrote it for a bit of fun at first. You know, we sat down and wrote, right, what's this job all about? You know, how do you recruit players? You know, how do you deal with clubs? You know, how do you identify a player? How do you deal with the press? What about visas? We could go on and on and on. Then we started to write more and more. And after about 6 months, we had this 16 module course about how to become a football agent. We put it out there, and it's just blossomed into something we wouldn't believe. So we're doing this course worldwide, from weird and wonderful places. We've got people in Afghanistan, Australia, Saudi Arabia, all over the UK. Even in sunny parts of Glasgow. And what the course basically is there to teach them what the job is all about, not from the academic side. We've got an academic department as well, but from what the job's all about. You know, and again, once people do that course, they go, right, the penny drops. Now I know what the job's all about. And then after that, they're basically making a decision, oh, yes, this is for me, or, you know, at least I understand what the job's all about.
And see, from that, if somebody was coming in and doing the course, and they come through the course and they get their degree.
It's not a degree in the first one.
It's just the course.
It's just it's an online 16 module basic course that tells you from starting at how you identify a player right through to what we think, how you do a deal. So when you get to that point, or you come through it all and you're happy and that's what you want to do, what would then be the next step for that person? How would they go from having that knowledge and that base to, I want to get myself out there and maybe start getting some players and get into that sort of arena, because it must be saturated. No, well, some people have done our course and away and got jobs from it. Because of the recognition about who we are and how long we've been in the industry, which is fantastic. But we don't say to people, you know, do a 16 module course and you're signing up by Cristiano Ronaldo. that ain't happening. You know, this is a very difficult job, and it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. So basically the course gives you the fundamental base about how to become an agent. And then from then on in, we have two areas that we teach, and we continued professional development by mentoring them. And then we have a mentoring system. Like for instance, tomorrow we have an 8-week mentoring program. It goes on once a week, where we teach people online live how to do the job. And we also have private mentoring. And then we have an educational side, where we're the first people in the world and the only people to write a master's degree and an MBA with a professor called Professor Vincent English from Cambridge University. And that's been going now for about 18 months, and we're extremely proud of that. So we've got the whole package of it to try to teach people how to become a football agent. And as I say, it started off with a wee, you know, like mum will write a few things about being an agent, and we've got thousands of students all over the world. It's went absolutely crazy.
I suppose, but it then goes back to that, when you're younger and you are going down the kind of, you always start off wanting to be a football player, then maybe a football manager, but then you get to the other points, you're like, oh, maybe I could be an agent. But that course is your perfect scenario, because it then probably gives people a reality check as well of it isn't as easy as going and getting a Ronaldo and you've got 2 clients and that's you can sit on the beach for the rest of your year. Yeah. It's obviously the other logistics of going behind finding a player and all these different things. So I'm not surprised there's been a massive turnout. Even that, I only put it up the other day and I must have got about 20 posts of people saying, "No, I'm interested in that course." And I haven't put the website or anything on it. I just put John Viola's coming on the podcast. So there must be people that are just everywhere that are keen to go and do it. But it's good that they can go and get that grounding, and it's not here's just one course to go and look at. It's a full-on development, as you say. It's a continuous programme.
It's a pathway. You know, there are some other courses that some people have followed our lead and said, I'd like to, they've wrote courses as well. But we pride ourselves in taking people from the cradle, like to the grave, if you like, in terms of being a football agent, right from here to here. Right. And we've done it, and we're proud that they've done it. And there's guys that we're taking who are doing business in the Premier League, who came and said, right, I want to be a football agent. How take me in a course, and from the course are now doing business in the Premier League, and that's something that we're extremely proud of. Right. And again, not people that you would think, oh look, this is that fall into the category of, you know, I think we've actually got a doctor who's doing the course as well, who's done the course and been mentored. He's still a doctor, right? And he's an agent as well. It's great, you know. He's helping people with the COVID situation, and then he's phoning us at night saying, "Oh, I've just seen a great young player. He's in London." So we wrote actually, the Daily Mirror, Gary wrote a story about him. His name's Babatunde Elliott, and it's a great story about how he spends 3 days as a doctor and 3 days as a football agent, or 4 and 3 depending. That's a glutton for punishment, surely. A doctor, and that's a 90, 100 hour week there. Easy, but he's so enthusiastic. Yeah. His 2 passions are being a doctor and being a football agent. And then he says, I've been dreaming about being a football agent for years. I saw this course, came onto the course, got mentored with ourselves, and he's now doing business with us. We were with him a couple of days ago in London. It's amazing. But we've got many stories like that. Yeah, different people. With different people from here in Glasgow. He's in London. We've got a guy in Dubai, a guy in Australia. We could go on and on and on. And it's been great. It's been a great journey. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And obviously you had originally built your stable in Scotland and the UK getting your players, but when did the time come for you when you then started branching out further than that and going into kind of European or world players? What was the kind of moment where you realised that market was kind of opening up for you to get into? Yeah, that's quite interesting. I don't know the exact date, but I've been going quite a while when I started realising the whole world's not centred around Glasgow. Aye. And then I thought, right, okay, I'll do some business in England and start to get involved with English clubs. And then people were saying, look, I've got a player, could you help me? Or going to sign a player up in France. And then next thing I knew, we were bringing players from France and Spain. And then I just widened the net, and then we were doing business in the Middle East. And then next thing you know, I'm sitting in Shanghai. And then the next thing you know, and then it just becomes a natural thing that we've been doing business worldwide, and people recommend you in all these different places. And it wasn't just like overnight. You know, we were dealing with players in England, and their pal was from Ghana, and he says, John's a decent guy, or this company. And then next thing you know, you're in Ghana and recruiting players there, and there's everywhere that we're working. It's not like I said, right, okay, you work in the Scottish market. But we did start in the Scottish market and then built ourselves up to the top there. And then we moved into England, and then now we could be anywhere. We go and do business wherever the football is, that's we're there. And how's the relationship with yourself and like clubs, be it managers, chairman, whatever? Because again, it's probably something that gets perceived as a negative sometimes, because you hear about all these chairmen and they're like, oh, I hate agents, don't want to deal with agents. But that can't be the case on the whole, because otherwise these players wouldn't get into clubs and introductions when they happen. But for you, how do you find that relationship between clubs and yourself? Just like any other business, some chairmen are really good with you, and some don't treat you well, or just treat you as, you know, you're necessary evil. But the best ones, I think, are the ones that actually bring the agents into their fold, because they're going to get the best players through these guys. The clever ones, they get involved with agents. And I've been saying that if somebody new takes over a club, go and find good agents to deal with, because they'll bring you good players. And we're like scouts for them, if you like. So there's some, it's like any other business, same again, some good and bad. But one wee story I can tell you about is a very famous chairman in Scotland. He was in a big thing in the newspaper saying agents are terrible, they'll take money out of the game, blah, blah, blah. And the next morning I'm reading the paper. Man, it wasn't my name he mentioned, but I was reading the paper. And then my phone goes and it was that chairman saying, "Can you get me a striker, John?" And that's something that, like, you're saying to yourself, you know, these people are giving us stick, but then in the next hand they're saying, "I'm desperate for a striker," which I found really funny. But that's part of the business. We seem to be the guys that get it and the brunt of the stick, which I can understand. But I'm teaching people and educating people that it's not all about the guys, the Violas up there, and it's not all about the bad press. There are really fantastic, genuinely good, honest agents out there doing a great job for their players. Now, if you sit with a lot of players, a lot of them will tell you, "Yep, my guy's doing a real good, honest job for you." But the papers don't print that.
Yeah, it's not going to sell papers.
No, it's not going to sell papers that you know that John Viola's just done drove all the way to Birmingham and done a deal for nothing for somebody because he's only a young kid. You know, and I've done that. You know, drove back home and not earned a penny, but the boy's settled and he's done. Yeah, that wasn't in the Daily Record the next day. If that makes sense.
No, it's not going to. Nobody's going to buy that headline, are they? John travels to save somebody, or chairman hates agent. I know exactly what you mean.
That's par for the course. But as I said, there is some fantastic people in the industry who are doing a fantastic job. Just I said, I just don't think the education's there enough for people to see, because they're only seeing the bad things.
Yeah, and I suppose see on the side of your Violas, etc., and they are taking monster fees for their clients. From your point of view, obviously being in that industry and looking at that, do you feel the fees justify the work that they guys do based on that level of player, or do you think it's just like some parts of the market are just crazy for those kind of levels?
That's a good word, crazy. You know, for getting whatever he got for that, I can't remember the figures, 30 million or something.
25, 30 million.
30 million. But here's the thing, Manchester United wanted the player, so they've paid him. It's a commercial decision. If you don't want the player, you don't pay the money. So in any other business, if they said that Rod Stewart was getting 25 million for doing a gig somewhere, and nobody would be complaining about that, would they? Or if somebody was getting 25 million for doing a deal that's in another business, nobody would complain about it because it's football. But I understand, because it's a people's business, and they're saying, "No, I'm part of this," you know, especially what's happened recently. So I understand the negativity, but again, that's only a very, very minute amount of people that are doing those deals.
And I suppose, as you say, it's if the club are willing to meet the number, then you're not going to say, "No, don't pay me that." You're going to take if you're saying, "Right, here's the number, take it or leave it," and if the club take it, you're not then going to turn in and go, "I don't want paid." No. It's all relative, isn't it, to your line of work? Definitely.
The club wanted the player. The club wanted to pay that. They had to pay that money to get the player. They've made that decision. They didn't just make that overnight. They've sat around board and said, "Right, okay, we're going to have to give this guy 25 million or 30 million. But we've got a class player that's going to maybe win us the league."
That's it.
And the share prices are going to go up, and we're going to get an extra 100 million because we've won the league. So that might have been what the motivation was. You don't know about that in the background.
No, definitely. And I suppose it goes back to that. They might pay 30 million, but as you say, they might get 400 million in TV deals. So
shirts right away. They sell so many shirts. They get the TV deal helps. They might win the league because they're bringing that player. So they've made a calculated decision to pay that agent that money. But as I said, Gary, that only happens. See the amount of times people ask me about Viola. They never ask me, "What about the wee guy that's been in the business for 2 years, you know, that's sitting and he's, you know, and he's breaking down in his car and he's borrowing money for his mum because he's desperate to get into this industry." Nobody talks about the guys.
But that's what the press pigeonhole as well. It's that one guy, but that one guy is all agents. It's based on they're all taking 20 million.
That would be great.
Exactly, that's the thing.
20 million out every deal. That would be brilliant.
I'd be trying to reach you in a mansion just now rather than sitting in here with everybody. Something else that someone had sent in was, obviously you must get a lot of players wanting to be represented by you, and you'll get the issue of a player might not be good enough, or you'll know yourself, I don't think you're going to hit the heights, but Is that a conversation from your point of view that gets any easier over time, or is it always a difficult chat between you and a potential player to kind of break that to them?
It's not really, because there's a level for every player, for every agent.
Yeah.
So players will go to Mina Viola at that level.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll come to John Viola at this level.
Yeah.
That sounds the same, doesn't it? Viola there. And then they might say, they might come to me and I say, look, do you know what? You're not for me just now, but there's a guy here I think that would do a great job for you at that stage. So there's the player for every agent.
Yeah.
There's an agent for every player at different levels. And the player can move up and the agent can move up.
Yeah.
That I've seen that happen.
Aye. And see now, how do you find that with, obviously, wages, etc.? It's a different playing field now as it was years ago. But are you of the mind that, obviously, again, it comes back to that agent thing? If the club are willing to pay it, the player would take it? Or do you think there is players out there that have looked at other players and think, well, I should be getting 60, 70 grand, but they're not at that level, and finding that kind of disparity between, as you said, like levels with players? But some players will always think they're way up there, when in reality they're kind of midpoint. But how does that kind of work from your side?
In dressing rooms, there's definitely going to, if you've got
No.
15 players sitting after a game and they're thinking, well, but now I'm an international, and this new guy's come in from abroad and he's getting double the money, and I've been at the club for 5 years and he just walked in the door. That's always going to be there. You can't change that. And there will always be people who think they're better than others, and that's going to always be a problem in a dressing room. But nothing we can do about that.
Right. No, it's just one of them, because I was always curious of agents getting calls for their players going, I'm only on X amount, I need to be getting paid X, Y and Z, and you're then sitting going, how am I supposed to tell
this player? If you agree a contract, if you came to me today, Gary, and says, I'm a better player, that's great, because you'll either get a move or you'll get a bigger contract at the club you're at. Your time will come. Yeah. But you can't give me running in. If you agreed a contract, and I say that to my players, if you've agreed a contract, I can't be running away to the chairman and saying, give him a bigger contract right now, and you agreed a 4 or 5 year deal, which you were happy at the time. Just because maybe somebody else has come in or you think you're better. But a lot of clubs do come to you and say, okay, Gary, you've done really well. We want to give you an extra couple of years. We'll give you more money, and you're rewarded if you do the job on the pitch.
I suppose you must get chairman telling you to F off as well. You try and phone them early doors for a contract. No,
I've had everything from every chairman and every sports director. Don't worry about that. But they always come back to you when they need the product that you've got, which is the good player.
Well, that's the thing, is you said it yourself with the press report. As much as they will say agents don't need them, blah blah blah, as soon as they need a player, who else are they going to phone? But they'll come back to you going, no, I need a striker, I need a midfielder, what can you do for me? And you're expected to just go, alright, okay, no worries, bearing in mind the last conversation we had, but I'll get that sorted out for you.
But it's business. I don't get worried or concerned about the criticism, because I know what the job's all about. I know that some chairman will come to you and give you a wee bit of stick, and I've had that before. You very rarely get praise from them because they're scared to praise agents. But privately they do. Privately they'll do that. That's a great job you've done, John. You've brought us a great player. We're really happy. We're all happy with the contract. Let's move forward and make the club go forward. You're part of it because you're welcome here because you brought a great player. So, privately a lot of them really, look after you and say, right, okay, I'm happy to have you in my club. So for me, that's the part you don't see as well. But it's difficult for a chairman to come out and say, oh, John's brought us a player. He's a great guy, by the way, because we're all bad guys.
I suppose in your line of work as well, there'll be chairmen who'll be of rival clubs, and you might be making deals to go to that other club, and that chairman's going to be sitting going, well, that's going to affect my team here. And it's that whole, I can't be seen to be saying, oh, John's brilliant, he's just signed 2 brilliant players for X, Y and Z. That's just cost us a league title.
Especially in this city.
Aye, God, can't escape it here.
Well, and here, when I'm doing business, or I've been, especially in the past with both the big clubs, it's managing. It's managing that situation.
Have you found that situation easy to manage over the years, or has there been points where it's been a bit of a nightmare?
I wouldn't use the word nightmare. As I say, it has to be managed. Sometimes if you've got a really good player and both the clubs want the player, then, and that's happened more than one occasion, then you have to judge about what's right. But for me, it's not about me. It's not about what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
If Gary's got a choice of two clubs, Gary, who do you want to go and for what reason? You go and meet the two of them.
Aye.
You go and see the facilities. You go and meet the coach. You go and meet the chairman. Get a feel for the club.
Yeah.
You make a decision. I've never made a decision for a player ever.
Aye. Have you had players that have tried to put it on you to be like, I can't make a choice here?
I've had that.
Aye.
I've had that.
What do you do? Do you just go back to them and say, look, you've looked here, you've looked there, you need to...
I've had a few times where they just can't do it. They go, look, can you make that decision? And then I have said, well, okay, in my opinion, this is the right place for you because it's right for the training, or it might be the coach. I think the coach is really good, or where they're coming to, the country they're coming to, or whatever it may be. So I have helped them make a decision, but only because they have asked. Yeah. Yeah. All the time, my main thing is always the person that comes first in this industry is a player. That's who I represent. Yeah. And for me, if he is talking to clubs, he makes a decision, not me.
You'll get that feeling of dread if it's Celtic and Rangers and you're waiting on that question coming up. I don't know. Gonna you pick? Oh,
I've had that before.
I've
had that before.
I was curious around, obviously being in this industry for 25 years and looking back, knowing what you know now and been through all the experiences that you've been through, is there anything that you wish you were kind of armed with back then when you first started from a knowledge point of view that would have stood you in good stead?
I tell you, I wish I'd been armed with somebody putting on a course.
Aye.
Because I was thrown in at the deep end.
Aye.
And I made a lot of mistakes. And we all still make mistakes, as long as you learn from them. So we're trying to teach the people in our course, coming back to that. I wish that was around then, something like that. There was absolutely nothing, zero, up until years ago, until we started this. So we were thrown in at the deep end, and you're in a situation of how do you recruit a player? No, there was no manual. You had to go with it. And how do you identify a player? How do you speak to clubs? What do you say to them? How do you come about? The fortunate thing is I had some transferable skills being in the financial services business, because I dealt with people and dealt with high flying people. So I sort of was quite comfortable dealing with chairman and whatever. But definitely, I wish we had something the way back then. I wouldn't have made so many mistakes that we made. There's plenty of them, I can tell you.
As you say, but everybody's made them. And see at the starting point, was there anybody that you kind of looked up to in that world, or anybody that you kind of went to for advice in those early days on how you were kind of managing things or how to get the best out yourself?
I tell you that there was one or two actual businessmen and chairmen that own clubs, and I used to speak to them for a wee bit of mentorship to say, well, look, how are you dealing with agents? What's the best way that you would want them approach you? How would you want a deal to be structured? And there was one or two people that I had a good affinity with and that helped me. And that was only through relationship building. Yeah, I had to build relationships with good people, and still dealing with a lot of these people.
Best bit of advice you've ever got for somebody? I love asking people that question.
That's a great question, by the way. Don't listen to everything that footballers tell you, That's why, no, seriously, like I said to me, don't listen, because they tell you that, they're the fastest and the strongest and whatever. I remember a chairman saying to you, I've had so many players in here in front of me, and if you listen to what you said, you would sign every single one of them. And I took from that, because players would come to you and say, I'm this and I can do this and whatever, and you have to do your own homework to make sure all that's right. And I remember somebody telling me at the beginning, because at the beginning I was so excited to be an agent, I was signing up anybody. Oh, we guys in the park, and this guy that played for, Drumchucky Rovers, and oh, hello, you're in my stable at the beginning. And then I quickly realised, wait, no, it's quality you should be signing, and players will tell you. And I remember a chairman saying that to me, don't listen to everything they tell you, because, and quite rightly, a lot of them are enthusiastic about what they do, and they want to break into becoming either a professional player or play at the highest level.
you still get that now with the old YouTube video, and you see a clip of somebody online and they look like a world beater for 2 minutes, and then you go to a game and you're like, that can't be the same guy. It's a totally different. But then you must get that as well. You must get videos sent to you from people going, oh, he's amazing, watch
every
this.
day. Especially my son. My son's in Venezuela and he's amazing. My son's in Germany, he's just, my son's in Balanach and he's unbelievable. But we've got enough scouting network and enough people that we know, and there's enough platforms that you can actually see how good a player is. It's completely changed when I started.
Yeah.
Now if somebody gives me a player, I can go into 3 or 4 different platforms and have a look at them. And I'm not just talking about how good they are, how bad they are as well. There's different websites you can go into, and
they do it,
and they're amazing. And they're showing you full games. So I say, because in the past, maybe if somebody was sending you a video, it was only of them scoring great goals and or doing great tackles, whatever. But now there's full games where you can see their positioning and good, bad, and indifferent. And
see, from that point of view, how much kind of due diligence do you do before you would take a player on? Like, how much homework would you do on them? Massive.
We're in a situation, if someone comes to us, we take up references, we watch them through it, we speak to scouts, we speak to people in our country, we take a personal reference if we can. It's really important. What type of person they are. And then of course we look at all the videos. We've got a wee team that analyse, how much effort they put into a game. We analyse, their position in play. We analyse everything that's involved with becoming a footballer, and then we sit down and say, yep, he definitely looks like somebody you would have a go at.
Love that. And I suppose it's not just ability now, it is, as you say, the whole personality of a player and how they are outside of football. And because I suppose if that full package isn't there, it still comes back to you as well. If that player's doing things off the pitch, or it just all falls, as you say, the agent gets the blame. Anyway,
all the time.
You must get the calls at 3 a.m. and 4 a.m.
I got one last week, 25 past 4 a.m, and I thought, I knew as soon as a call, something had happened, But that's part and parcel of the business. That's the part that people don't tell you. You get a call at middle of the night that something's happened and you're having to control it or whatever it may be. Nobody talks about them. No. Not about the agent having to get out of his bed.
And do you ever get anything new that still surprises you, or are you just seen it all?
Jesus. If we were here at 4 a.m, by the way, and we would need to get the video off, we'd need to turn the whole thing, and some of the crazy things that footballers have been up to,
So that there was more questions from people that listen to the podcast, but another one that I wanted to ask just before we jump into them, I know we spoke about the course and the important stuff that contains, but for anyone, even if they get past that stage, they've done their courses, are ready to go out there, what kind of key bits of advice would you give to somebody making those starting blocks into becoming an agent from what you've experienced and how you've worked?
One of the biggest things is that they have to be patient. It's not going to happen overnight. You said before, come in 5 years from now, you're lying on the beach. That ain't going to happen. They have to be patient. They have to be able to, for me, be able to identify a player. It's a very, very first thing. And it needs to be as big as quality as you can at the beginning. So at the very beginning, there's 2 main pillars that we talk about, is identifying and recruiting a player, and then be able to have relationships with clubs. You need those 2 when you're starting in the business. And if you can master those 2, that's you starting on the road to become an agent.
Love that. I've got to ask, what was your first big deal? Like your first...
It's funny. My first deal was and it was a bit of a wild situation, believe it or not. It was before I actually signed as an agent. And I took a player to Nottingham Forest. And I was dealing with Brian Clough. But it wasn't face to face. Brian Clough was on holiday. And I was dealing with his assistant, and he was on the phone and he gave me dog abuse. Because the agents are like, what's an agent? What you want an agent, son? You don't need agents. And then you need to speak to him, and then he came on the phone and he gave me a wee bit of verbal, and it was quite interesting. The deal got done, and that was a way back in, that was 1992, when just the year the Premier League started. That was my first deal.
Brian Clough as well.
Brian Clough, what an opening that was.
I wouldn't even have picked up the phone.
Actually, to be fair, when they said that, I was dealing with an assistant manager, and he was really nice, and he was like, great, you're here to support the boy. The boy needs somebody because he's not got a clue. came from Scotland, and it was a big, massive move. And he's saying, you know, that he was supporting it. He says, but I'm not so sure what Brian will say about this. So we get Brian on the phone, and as I said, to give me a bit of bollocking. It was what do you need agents for and all that, shouting down the phone, but eventually we came to an agreement and we got it all sorted.
I'd have been like that. Right, that's like a living legend, isn't it, at that point as well?
It
larger
was
than life.
No, mega. At the time, again, I knew he wasn't coming to the meeting because I knew he was abroad.
Right.
But I didn't think I'd get to actually speak to him.
Right.
And when I did, it was... so I've never met the man, but I spoke to him on the phone.
Still get that fear factor over the phone, Phil?
I tell you what, when I see him, things, it brings back the memory flashes back. When I see something on the telly about him, the memory flashes back about him shouting about down the phone.
Oh man, that would have probably ended most people as an agent. They'd be like, nah, I don't need this. Don't need this life at all. Loads of questions in for people, obviously. Football Daft City. People were like, oh, John Viola, that's X, Y and Z's agent. I want to know about X, Y and Z. And I'm like, right, I don't know how much of this he's going to be able to talk about, but I'll ask. Somebody had spoke about John Hartson, because obviously John Hartson was supposed to go to Rangers, didn't go to Rangers, and had asked, obviously, from your point of view, what was your kind of feeling on that whole scenario? Did you see it coming, or was it just one of those kind of medicals that threw up something untoward that nobody really knew was going to happen?
Never seen it coming.
No.
And it was devastating for both John and myself at that time. Just he went for the medical and it didn't happen for him. But yet he went on to Celtic and had an unbelievable career at Celtic.
And I suppose that's the thing. See, at that point, were Celtic always interested in him, or did that come after the whole medical situation, or were the two of them kind of battling it?
I don't know, because I wasn't representing him for Celtic. I only had the job to take him to Rangers at that time. But if you spoke to John Hartson, he'd probably be saying it was the best decision ever, because he's had an unbelievable time of it after it with Celtic. Aye,
definitely.
And it just shows you that you know that when it comes to medicals, that some people have got different opinions. You know, at that time they weren't happy with whatever it was that they saw, that they couldn't sign him. But when they went to Celtic, they says, no, we think this is okay, and sure enough, we went on to have a rest of his career, which was brilliant.
And I take it from your point of view, that must be horrific in the sense of you've got everything else done, and then something comes back for one of these medicals, and you're like, game's a ball, you know.
And that's happened before, and it's not very nice, especially if you've a lot of occasions you put a lot of time into trying to get something done, and then it falls through with the medical. But it's not just the fact for you; it's more for the player, because then he's tarnished with the problem that he's got a bad knee, or he's tarnished with why did he not sign for that club? So it's difficult for you then to move on to somewhere else, because they're doing even more stringent medical when he goes somewhere else, or there's a negativity about trying to move him because they say, well, his medical fell through, and it's terrible for the player. Yeah, that's happened several times to me.
I remember at the time seeing that obviously Hartson was devastated, but as you say, you go to another club past the medical and score hundreds of goals.
There you go.
It's bonkers. See, when you get the kind of, you maybe get some players that are kind of water off a duck's back, but see, from you seeing it from the agent side, does that get to the players when they know the fans are unhappy and they're kind of...
Definitely. I mean, I know players who look at something on Twitter and go, oh, no, they're not giving me stick again, or whatever. Of course, they're people. It's natural. There are other players who maybe just say, look, you know what, you know, this is a short career, I've just got to get on with it, I'll go and do what I've got to do, and can ride the storm. But there are people, you know, who really have problems, especially in the current climate, where you know they can directly attack them through their Facebook or Twitter or whatever it might be. And as we know, there's been lots of problems with that recently, especially mental health or whatever. And going back, it didn't really have that as bad then. You know, you might see people complaining on the radio or something, you know, shouting for a couple of minutes or whatever. The phone in. That was probably your maximum at that time.
Definitely.
So it's changed days now where they can obviously directly attack players, and of course, they're like, they're people, they're normal people. That's the thing, and maybe the punters don't see them as normal people.
That's it. It's as if they're kind of, they're robots, should have feelings and things like that, and you should stay in the one place for 15 years. And
definitely.
Another one that came in was has there ever been a player that you could have had, but for whatever reason didn't take on, and you've kind of looked back on it and went,
Definitely.
really? Aye.
I was just talking about this the other day. I won't name the player, but I missed out on a player, and he ended up becoming a Scottish international, and then went to the Premier League and done extremely well. And I actually met him after. Right. I met him when he was at the top in the Premier League, and I made a laugh. He says, I came to your office and for some reason we didn't go through or whatever. Can't remember exactly what happened. Right. And it's one of the ones that I missed. It was my mistake more than his, you know.
Aye.
And we had a laugh about it.
Does it bother you though? Like, does it bother you at the time and then you kind of move on?
No, we can't do anything about it. Aye. You know, I made a mistake.
Aye.
And that's life. You just move on to the next one.
Aye.
But we have missed players. I know that we myself and Phil went to, believe it or not, it's a true story, went to Brazil and on a recruitment drive.
Right.
With a friend of ours. Mm-hmm. And we were in this office in Sao Paulo.
Right.
And the guy says, right, okay, I want you to bring all the Brazilians to the UK or Europe. That's what your job is. He says, and today we're bringing in 5 or 6 young Brazilians to talk to them, 16, 17. It's a true story, by the way. They brought in two players, and the 2 of them were 17, and we wanted to sign them.
Right. Because
we'd seen them, and we'd heard one, and we just broke into the first team at Santos, and blah, blah, blah. And, oh, that's the 2. I mean, everybody knew they were really good players. Eventually, they signed with a local agent,
right,
rather than us, because we thought they would deal with us because of the international status and the fact that we had access. And believe it or not, it was Robinho and Kaka, the 2 of them, came into the office and went. So that's another one when we seen him, we go, wow, what happened there? And it was just till about 3 or 4 years later, and Phil says to me, these 2 boys. Aye, he says, that's the 2 boys that came into the office that day in Sao Paulo. I went, Jesus. But there you go.
That's wild.
So if you're asking, did we miss any? There you go. That's 2 no bad ones to miss.
That's like 2 end of question, isn't it? Jeez. Kaka especially. Wow. And that's the thing, a lot of the South American ones, you see it and they've got like 5, 6 agents and all sorts of companies, and I remember the Tevez thing and there was all sorts of things behind that. But is that hard in some countries? Is there so many different areas and angles that players are involved with potentially?
It's different in every region and every country. I know that, you know, it's really difficult to do business in China, for instance, Brazil, because there is so many agents attached to one player.
Yeah.
Every country is different in every different way when you're doing business. But for us, we normally bring in a partner abroad, a professional who knows the land, the lie of the land, because going into some countries and trying to do the business yourself is extremely difficult.
Right. That's crazy. I can't get all that, Robinho.
No, well, don't keep going on about it, Gary.
Oh man, I'll try and get him on next week. We'll talk about it.
Robinho and Kaka.
Do you remember, obviously, without naming names, if you don't want to name names, the biggest deal you've done?
The biggest deal? I know I can name the biggest deal what I've done. I took a player called Christian Carambou from Real Madrid to Middlesbrough. That was one of my biggest deals. That was my biggest deal, I think.
How did that come about?
I had a partner that I dealt with in France who used to look after Christian.
Right.
And he basically said to me, look, he's wanting out of Real Madrid and he wants to come to England and you've got the connections, and we took it from there.
That's unreal.
So, and I was with him just a couple of weeks ago. He's now the sporting director at Olympiacos. That's what he's doing now. So he's somebody that we've done business with, who's been into
from then on.
I went to the next part, and we're continuing to do business with him at Olympiacos, which is brilliant.
Such a random move as well for Real Madrid to Teesside. Such a change in weather.
But we got a funny story about that, because when I was just talking about this yesterday, actually, spoke about that deal for ages. But when he came off the plane to look to sign, myself and Brian Robson was the manager at the time, and the chief executive, can't remember his name, and we said, well, rather than taking them straight to the stadium, why don't we take them to a lovely quaint village near Teesside Airport called Jarm. Right. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's a lovely village. And when we got there, we were sitting down, it was having lunch, and we thought, well, why don't we order a wee drink here just to break the ice, you know? So we ordered a pint of Guinness. I'll never forget it, right? And so me, Brian, and another boy ordered a pint of Guinness, or half pints of Guinness. I think that's what it was. And then Christian didn't know what Guinness was, didn't drink, but he ordered one as well.
Right.
So they had he's having a wee drink and they're sipping away, and he finished it, and he turns to me and says, John, this drink here, is this like a nutrition herbal drink or something? Half pint of Guinness. And I was laughing my head off. To this day he still talks about, he doesn't drink, and he still talks to this day about how when he was going to sign for Middlesbrough, he's sitting having a half pint of Guinness for us, you know. He thought it was something, you know, like a nutritional drink or something. It was funny.
A protein shake?
A protein shake or something like that. But he knows now, but he was laughing about that. We were talking about it last time we seen him. But he signed for Middlesbrough and done extremely well.
Aye, because that was the same time where kind of Alan Boxic and players
right,
like
Boxic,
that were
that's
coming
right.
in.
Boxic signed the same time, exact same time. The Middlesbrough were paying massive money.
That's right.
The guy who owns it, there's a guy called Steve Gibson who's had the club for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's crazy. A lot of people were asking what your kind of thoughts are on the transfer windows, because again, it's something that's changed over time. But from your point of view, is it easier knowing that you've got 2 windows to get business done, or does it become a hindrance to you to try and get deals done because you've only got that small period of time?
It's a hindrance for me. Right. I would rather have that you could do the business every week.
Aye.
It's restricted. Some people argue it's a bit restrictive of trade because, you know, they've stopped us doing business between certain windows. But what a lot of people don't realise is everybody only talks about the European market from June to August.
Yeah.
But there's windows open throughout the year. You know, you go to the MLS at a certain period, then you go to Russia to do business, then you go to the Far East, you can do business out with June to August. So if you've got it, if you know the business, and this is something we teach people, there are markets open throughout the whole year, so you can actually do business throughout the whole year if you're doing worldwide business. Yeah.
So it goes back, I think it's only the fans that like the whole Sky transfer window, then everybody else seems to be like, get that away.
But most clubs, if you speak to them, would rather have it that they could do business through if you speak to them in general. You know, not them all, but most of them.
Do you think that then leads to clubs paying over the odds because they've only got X amount of hours and they've got to get 3 or 4 players in, and then just start spending money? Right.
Sometimes. Never fails to amaze me that why clubs have to wait to the last day.
Aye.
When if they've done their job correctly, they should be signing them on the 1st of June, or in this case the 9th of June coming up, or whatever it may be. But then, of course, there's other clubs that wait to find bargains. There's lots of, lots of clubs that do it in different ways, different manners.
And I can't have you on and no ask you about the world of transfer fees, because again, that's a topic that I got fired into me when we were arranging an interview. But I suppose from your average fan will say transfer fees are wild, and from a business point of view, obviously that's your livelihood and you look at it from that point of view. But how do you find the whole transfer fee? Because when you first came in, obviously you had then like £1 million players, and that was massive at that point, whereas now you talk about players just now and they're saying, anything over 100 million. I mean, you hear that figure and you're like, what even is that? But from your industry, how do you feel about it?
Well, I'm probably one of the ones a wee bit different to think it's crazy, you know. Other agents think it's great because it bolsters what they're earning, but I'm a fan as well, remember. You know, I go to, when I finish my job or a day, I go and watch football, and I go and sit and, you know, and watch a game the exact same as you. I don't like the fact that the transfer fees have went through the roof and crazy, because a lot it's difficult for a lot of the smaller clubs, and it's only the big ones that can actually pay it and benefit from that. So probably you won't find an agent saying that, but that's the way I see it.
And I suppose it affects agents as well, though, because if you've maybe got a player that you're trying to get a move elsewhere, and that club are saying you might value him at 10 million, but we want 20 for him, it then puts you in a position of, what do you do with that player? Because if you can't get that money in, the player's stuck there, and
it happens.
It happens where
the clubs overprice a player.
Aye,
that happens regular.
I suppose that doesn't help the chairman agent
relationship that definitely.
The best.
I want him to move, but he doesn't want to let him go.
Aye.
And we're in that negative situation, that no man's ground.
Aye. with that, do you know, I'd actually read an interview that you'd done and you were talking about the Lee McCulloch transfer, and that was the whole, because I remember that summer, because that went on for months and months and he was getting frozen out at Wigan and there was all sorts going on. But see, from your point of view, do you always think if we kind of tell the player to sit tight, this will happen, or is there points where you're sitting going, I don't know if this is going to
No, you did get to a level where sometimes you said, you know what, we've tried every angle, it's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
We've had that more than once.
Aye.
But for me, I'm representing the player. If he wants to get to that club, it's my job to try my best to get him there if I can.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I operate. The player comes first. If he says, take us to the last day, to the last hour, I'm picking up the phone and saying, look, you sure you still don't want to take him? Then that's what my job is.
That's a test of nerve for you as well, isn't it? Because most of you're saying, do you want me to do something? And they're like, no, just wait and see.
Well, that's part of the job.
Right.
There's a lot of things. Right. There's a lot of gamesmanship in the job as well, Gary. There's a lot of to and fro, and well, you see that part in the papers. Yeah. You know, that bit is probably the general public understand.
Aye.
So there's a lot of that going on behind the scenes.
Aye. And that's the thing. Like the amazing thing about this interview, it's even just getting that insight of, you do pick up a paper and you might see a quote, but then the reality of it is far different from what you're reading. Like when you're saying about the chairman slaughtering agents, and then you're on the phone to him while you're reading that.
I was reading the Daily Record. I'll never forget it. In fact, my secretary was there, bring me a coffee or something, and she didn't really know anything about football anyway, which was great. Right? But even she picked up on that. She says, is that not the guy that I've just put through to you that was that's getting everybody stick? So the point I'm making is that that's the part in the background that you don't see.
That's amazing. Right, okay. So East End boy.
Yes.
From Easterhouse. Ballanocks, just down the road.
That's right.
Across the road.
Have you not used to fight, you guys? No?
I probably just used to run, to be fair. I suppose that the thing that a lot of people will ask, and the thing that you must get a lot, is how does a guy go from being from Easterhouse to becoming a successful agent, putting deals with Christian Carambo through, working with Luis Figo, having a chance of signing Robinho and Kaká? How does that actually happen? And that's not to cause offence to anybody from that part of the world, because I'm for that part of the world, you're for that part of the world. That doesn't always happen a lot, but from your point of view, you've lived it. So share your story on how you feel it's happened.
Well, one of the biggest things is, and I have to say, just pure hard work. And that's a massive thing, the effort I've put in from when I started in this, but not just starting in the football business. You know, I started in financial services before that. Mm-hmm. Even before that, believe it or not, I worked in building sites. Mm-hmm. I worked in a bar. Right. I worked in a community centre in Ballanloch, believe it or not.
Brilliant.
I'd done everything prior to getting into financial services, and then get into the agents business, and then seen the opportunity and worked really hard, done the job correctly, and met these wonderful people to do the business with them as my career progressed. But one of the things is that, Gary, if it doesn't matter where you come from, in my opinion, you know, if you put all that effort in, and if you've got the will and the desire, you can get to the levels. And if a wee guy for Easterhouse like me can make it, then I'm sure that the people that are either watching this podcast or listening to it can do it as well. 100%.
And I think it's good for people in areas like that to hear stories of people who have came from there, absolutely grafted, and got themselves into a position where they can come on and talk about things like that. And it makes that dream a wee bit more accessible for people, because it's easy for somebody to come on that's kind of been there, done it, bought the t-shirt, but haven't really came from an area where they've had to graft and fight to get to even a starting block, never mind anything else. But from your point of view, I think it's good for people to hear that side of things too. It wasn't just, I came for here and I became an agent. There was a full career before then, and then you get into that point, because it then tells people who are maybe doing one of those jobs, doesn't it just end there? You could go and do whatever you want to do. You've just got to put the graft into to get it.
A lot of hard work, but there's a lot of desire, and for me, it was always a desire to move on to different things.
Aye.
And as I say, going away back from leaving school in Easterhouse right to where we are today, there's been a full journey.
Aye.
And I've just small steps, moved up. But it has been a lot of time and effort and sacrifice.
Aye.
But these guys can do it, or these girls can do it if they put their mind to it. And that's one of the things that I'm passionate about our courses. And I give you a wee example. A boy from Weymouth, of all places, came on and said, I really have dreamt about becoming an agent. And he's only been doing it now just under 10 months. He's kept his job while he's doing this, while he's learning. I'm personally mentoring him. He's only 23. He's done 2 deals abroad. He's dealt with a guy in the Premier League, and he's signed up about 4 or 5 young players all around about his area. He's going to make it. And you know why? Because he's got the desire. And I could just tell on the phone, believe it or not, this is for me. I really want to try this. He'll be leaving his job shortly, and he'll be getting into the agent's business full time. So I want to let people understand that it's accessible now, and you can do it. It's not a pipe dream. It is something that you can get yourself into. And if it's not just through our course, I'm not just talking about our course. I'm talking about, don't think because you come from the East End of Glasgow or you're underprivileged situation that you can't make it as a football agent. You can. I'm living dream.
Love that. Before we finish, obviously, for anybody wanting to get involved in the course, etc., where's the best place for them to go to register interest?
We're on
LinkedIn,
Instagram,
things like that as well.
LinkedIn and Facebook, if anybody wants to contact us.
Perfect. John, it's been brilliant. Amazing, mate.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
You.
Cheers.